Okay, so today's video, at some point in your van life career, you're going to need to service your van, or get someone else to do it. My van is serviced every 30,000 miles, which is every 2 years. I'm servicing it at every 20,000 miles. So although the service isn't due at the moment because I've still got 10,000 miles to go, I'm going to still service it. For the simple reason is, if you service it early, keep everything in good condition, you're unlikely to have a breakdown or have future problems. That's my thinking anyway. So some of the items we've got. I've got an air filter, which is that there. A pollen filter, habitation filter. I've got a fuel filter, oil filter. I'm going to replace the antifreeze. I've got 10 litres of oil, and I've also got some brake cleaner. I'm not sure if the brakes are going to need doing. I'm going to have a look at those. So this is what this video is going to be about. It's going to be a complete 2 year, it's going to be a 4-year service. So yeah, this video is a 4-year service. My last service 2 years ago cost me £560 from the Fiat dealer. In parts, I have so far spent, I've just dropped that. In parts alone, I have so far spent, where is it, £251 from Euro Car Parts. So I'm what, 300 quid up at the moment. And I don't think the amount of time that it's going to take for me to service this, I don't think anyone was going to pay me 300 quid. So I'm going to be doing okay out of this, I think. So yeah, I'm going to get on and start doing the work. The pollen filter. The pollen filter is hidden behind that panel there. So the first thing I need to do is to remove a couple of screws, one up there, one over this side. I'm not sure if there's any more underneath. I'll get it off and I'll let you know where the screws are for that and what screws they are. Right. So I've just popped those off with with a screwdriver, and they are T20 star screws. Right, so there is another one just in that, underneath that little rubber casing, rubber cover. There's another one there. So there's 3 T20 star screws to take out, and if you click your fingers, they should just come undone. And then this center console just pulls out. It's quite difficult. I wouldn't say it's the easiest job in the world, but it does just actually lift out. Be careful of your USB socket there. There's going to be wires on the back. So to remove this first plug, the grey one, you just lift up this little tab here with a screwdriver. You can just see there's a little pin there that holds it in place, and that's, you lift up that and it just slides out. And this one, it feels like there's the same sort of thing underneath. Yeah, there's one underneath, and there's a little tab underneath on that one. So they just come off, and that center console pulls out. And now it's not the easiest place to get to this thing down here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Are there any more? So far I've found 4 screws, and again I'll click my fingers, I'll click my fingers and they will just fall out. Okay, so there's not 4, there's 6, there's 2 up here as well. So once you've removed those 2 cases, you get this case in here, and they are 2 little, I think they're 7/16. So once again, I'll click my fingers. I highly recommend learning to click your fingers so that those screws just fall out, because it makes life so much easier. And that is your pollen filter. And I would say, Jesus, even though I went to Fiat main dealer last year, I think that is a lot more than 2 years of dust. I'll just get a new one and show you the difference between this one and a new one. Right, so there's your comparison. That's the new one, and there's the old one. And I bet you any money Fiat 2 years ago didn't change that filter, because that looks like more than 2 years of dust to me. Right, so a little dust around the inside just to clean out. I've got one of these things, but any cloth will do. And pop the new filter back up in there. And it's hard to do with one hand, so I'm going to let go of the camera, but you get the idea. If you're like me, where your fingers have become a little bit clumsy and you can't get the screws to go in the places where you can't reach, like this one down there, what you can do is get one of these little teeny weeny powerful magnets, put that on the top of your screwdriver, stick your screw to that, and then you can use that to get your screws where they want to go. Take your magnet off and then screw them up. So there's a little tip for you. And I mean that one there is quite easy to do, but those ones deep down in there are quite hard to get to, and that's how I got those in. So there's a little tip for you. All right, so to get this last bit of console in, it's a little bit tricky. Put the top tabs in first and then slot this middle section back into place. Trying to do it the other way around, slotting the bottom in and then trying to push the top in, doesn't seem to work. So again, it's just another awkward thing that if you know how to do it, it just makes it easier. Tools needed for that job were a T20, a 7/16 bit, and a screwdriver bit. These just clip in the end of there, so it's nothing too fancy, and a small screwdriver to help pull off the plastic tabs, and that's it. Total time took was about 20 minutes. Next job is the air filter, and on there are 1, 2, 3, 4. Four is all I can see at the moment. 4 Phillips screws. So yeah, 4 Phillips screws. Real easy job, this one. And that's the old filter. And there's the comparison to the new one. Okay, so there's the new filter fitted, and I know that was definitely changed last year, because in the bottom of the filter the seal was just laying in the bottom, and that should go around the top of there. So the dealer hadn't even refitted the seal, they'd just thrown it inside down there and not even fitted it. So this is why I'd prefer to do the servicing myself. At least I know it's been done. Not only did they not replace the seal properly, they sheared a screw off, so that screw needs to come out, and the other end is stuck down there. So I'll get a pair of mole grips, get that out and put a new screw in there. Yeah, so much for Fiat dealers. So that's taken all of about 5 or 10 minutes, and the only tool you need for that is a long reach Phillips screwdriver. You can use a short one, but a long one makes it just a little bit easier. Fuel filter, and that is tucked away behind the passenger side light. So to remove the light, it's a couple of bolts, this one here and this one up here, and they are what are they, T27 star washers. So the light, once you've undone those screws, the light is mounted on these two sliding brackets, so the light slides a lot across to your left hand side and it should just pull away. If you don't realise how it's mounted, it makes it quite difficult, but there's your filter now. You can get to that. It just makes the job a whole lot easier. To remove the diesel feeds on the fuel filter, there's this little yellow tab that pulls down, and then you push in the two little white buttons on the side. I don't know if you can see those in there, but you push in those two little white buttons and then it pulls out. Same for the grey one. A bit tricky to get in there. Hold the camera and show you what I'm doing, but that little white tab pulls up, a little yellow tab, and then the old grey plastic bit slides across, and that comes off as easy as that. Tuck them out of the way, and then you've got a couple of bolts here and there to undo the fuel filter, to take the fuel filter off. The blue one here is exactly the same. Blue thing pulls across, press the white tabs and that will lift up and pull off, he says. It's almost off, it's just there. There you go, and that should just lift out. That's your fuel filter. On the top of the fuel filter, you have 6 T25 star screws, and that will give you access to the filter inside. It's a comparison on the fuel filters, the new one and the old. That's it. So with all that back together again, you need to prime it, and to prime it you just turn the ignition on without starting it, and that should prime it. Right, so I'm ready for priming it. So I've turned the ignition on and I can hear a bubbling from the fuel and a buzzing from the fuel pump, which is now stopped. So I'll do that a couple of times. And what I would say is when you're changing the fuel filter, disassemble it in a bucket, because I didn't do that and I've got quite a bit of fuel on the floor, so I've got that to clean up. A bit of washing up liquid and some hot water should do that, but you could avoid that just by disassembling it in a bucket. Right, so now for the real test, I'm going to start the ignition and see if it starts. Okay, another job well done. So move on to the next one. Right, tools for that job were again a T25 star screwdriver or star bit and a 10mm socket on an extension bar. For the next job, I'm going to change the engine oil, and for that you need to get the van up to running temperature. So you can see there the temperature's up, and tools for this job is a socket with a 12mm hex wrench, that's for the sump plug, and a oil filter remover, and a tray, obviously a tray big enough to get in about 7 litres of oil, and that needs to be quite a low tray. A bucket will be too high, so I've got a bowl. So as you can see there on the bottom of the engine, you have your 12mm hex bolt that drains the oil. I'm going to put the bowl underneath and then just use my X wrench to undo that bolt. that's really stiff. I'm gonna just loosen it up with 2 hands. Right, so just let the oil drain off, and because that sump bolt was so tight, I'll show you in a second what I did to loosen that. But yeah, I'll just leave that to drain. Okay, so once all the oil has stopped coming out, what I always do is pour a bit of the fresh oil through just to flush the system and give it a bit of a, get some of that old black shit out. So I've just poured in about half a litre, not even that maybe, just to flush out some of the old black stuff. Yeah, so once that has stopped dripping, we're going to replace the sump bolt. And this one doesn't have, or does it? Oh yeah, we're going to replace the sump bolt and the copper washer. Right, so with a new copper washer, I'm going to just do the hand tight because I've got the oil underneath it. I don't want to knock the oil over, but I'm going to come back to that and torque it up. Next is the oil filter, and that is just up there. Now, I have used screwdrivers in the past, but I had trouble removing an oil filter a year ago, so I bought one of these little oil filter removers, and it does make life a whole lot easier. So yeah, don't forget to put your oil bucket underneath to catch spilt oil. So with the new oil filter, you just, I don't know if you can see that, you just wipe a bit of oil around the seal and screw that back on and tight. Now you don't want to over tighten this, otherwise you'll get a leak. So that just needs to be hand tight like that. Now you can refill with oil. Right, the oil is 530 and it takes 7 litres, or 6 point something litres I believe. I've bought 10. So I'm going to pour this 5 totally in without checking it. and I'm going to save the container to put the old oil in. I'm going to give that a little bit of time to go down, and then I'll check the dipstick and see where we're at. Okay, you can see that just there. Give that a bit of time to work its way down. I'll give it a few minutes and then I'll check it again. Okay, you can see that at that point there, so we're going to need a little bit more. Okay, you can see that at that point there, so that's about it. Yeah, I'm going to run the engine and give it a run around the block, come back and check it again. Okay, so the last lot of checks we're going to do is these underneath here, and these undo the 3 little screw things there, and then this pulls up and towards you, and it's difficult to do, but it does just come off. And then you can check your antifreeze and your power steering. So we'll just check those there. That's on the minimum level, so we're going to probably add a little bit to that, and we're going to test the antifreeze with an hydrometer, but I don't have that with me at the moment, so I'm going to do that another day. Brake fluid is just here. And if you can see that there, if you give it a little shake, you can see that is at the maximum, so we don't need to do anything with that. Okay, so one of the tips I wanted to show you is if you haven't got enough leverage on your ratchet, an old trick that I learned is that you get a spanner, put it over the ratchet, that lengthens the handle, and that will give you extra leverage. And that's what I used to crack the nut on the sump bolt, because I just couldn't get enough force using this small ratchet handle. So there's another little tip for you.